Hello and welcome to part 2 of chapter 3, External Marketing Environment. The external environment as compared to the direct environment can be even more important, especially because it is something that's not at all in your control. It is a larger, independent factor that a firm must examine, understand, and adapt to. And second, it is constantly changing. So yes, smart marketers, they study the economic, political, legal, socio-cultural, and the demographic environment of the markets that they operate in. Our job as marketing students is to understand how this environment makes a difference and hence try to incorporate it in our marketing related decision making. Let's take them up one by one. The economic environment. Marketers keep an eye on a variety of economic indicators that affect their functioning, and we must understand how these indicators affect markets. Try to understand how each of these factors might play a role in affecting markets. It is, easy to see how GDP growth rate and per capita income will affect demand. Consumers with low per capita income will likely not buy a lot of products. Do you know what is the average per capita income of the USA? Well, it's about $53,000. And unfortunately, it hasn't changed much in the last few decades. But can you reason how interest rates might affect marketers? The answer is when interest rates are low, it is easier for consumers to take on loans and make expensive purchases than it is when interest rates are high. So marketers like it when the Fed, the government, decides that the interest rates are going to be reduced. Now, can you figure out how the currency exchange rates affect demand? What do you think marketers do when the US dollar appreciates against, say, the Mexican peso or the European euro? Think about it. Okay, there are two factors that were discussed in the text related to the political environment, and I would like to talk a little about the existence of regional economic groupings in the world. We know that NAFTA is an example of a regional economic group of countries. NAFTA brings certain opportunities and challenges to member countries. For example, because of NAFTA, American companies can freely move goods, services, labor, capital across Mexico and Canada as well. And this is great for the companies. It's good for the consumers and all the countries as a whole as well. At the same time, it is important to remember, and that's what I would try to emphasize here, that NAFTA is not the only such grouping in the world. There are similar economic groups that exist in all parts of the world. For example, the European Union in Europe, South Asian Free Trade Area in the South of Asia, where India is an important member, Gulf Cooperation Council in the Middle East, Common Market for Eastern and Southern Africa, etc. Recently, maybe you read in the newspapers, the USA entered into the Trans-Pacific Partnership. It has been in the news lately because of all the political developments. It entered into this partnership with 12 countries in the Pacific region, and this is going to create a number of opportunities for American companies internationally. So the key point here is that marketers should keep an eye on political developments like these and must adapt their marketing mix accordingly. This slide just informs you about the robust legal framework that exists in the US, which all marketers should follow unless they want to get into trouble. And as a rule, all marketers should follow the law of the land. So let's see in a few cases what all the marketers are not permitted to do in the US as per the legal framework. The first two acts, Sherman and Clayton, discourage monopolistic practices. So big companies can't do things which might discourage competition in the marketplace, even though they are sometimes powerful enough to do so. For example, big companies cannot reduce prices to a level that hurts other smaller players in the market. The Robinson-Patman Act doesn't allow price discrimination. In other words, if two buyers are exactly the same in every way, then a seller cannot offer a lower price to one buyer just because he happens to be his brother-in-law. The prices must be the same. That's what this act says. As per the Wheeler-Lee Amendment, deceptive marketing practices are not allowed. And let me show you an example of such a practice going on right under our noses, and let me know what you think. So I will click on this link, Deceptive Marketing Practices. And this takes us, when you drive on the highway, often I-96, you probably notice a billboard from a dentist. It's called Painless Dentistries. I notice it every time because I drive from Ann Arbor to Grand Rapids all the time. And it's surprising that this company and this person is doing this brazen deceptive marketing. And someone was, took the initiative of taking these pictures and putting them on the internet. So this is how the billboard looks like if you're driving on the Interstate I-96. Painless Dentistry. And this is how the billboard looks like from a distance. Implant $675. And here you can read in the corner, voted #1 office in Michigan. If you go back, you get closer. This is how it looks like. Voted #1 office in Michigan. And suddenly you notice there is an asterisk here. And there's something written down below in front of the asterisk. And when you go further closer, this is what you find out. Voted #1 office in Michigan, and the asterisk says, by our dental staff. Isn't this a little ridiculous? Yeah, it is quite surprising that such a practice is going on. It is a deceptive marketing practice. In other words, increasingly the conventional maxim of let the buyer beware, where marketers were able to get away with murder, is changing very fast. And it is moving towards let the seller beware. So be a good marketing citizen. It's the law. Now, culture and social factors are likely the most powerful forces shaping consumer behavior, and hence the formulation of the marketing mix of a company. Culture includes everything. It's the way a certain people live their lives, what they eat, how they dress, entertain themselves, pray, how they look at future, how they look at money, everything. Also, as you would imagine, culture always resists change. Nonetheless, culture also changes over time, sometimes due to other forces, sometimes due to the efforts of the marketing companies. Talking about cultural change, I remember about a couple of decades back in India, everyone used to drink just plain water with their food when they ate out. And now, after decades of powerful marketing by soft drink companies such as Coke and Pepsi and other companies from the world, the culture has changed. And now customers increasingly drink a soft drink with their food when they eat out. Which one is better? That's an altogether different question. So can you identify some major cultural changes undergoing in the American society? And where would you go if you wanted to find out more about the social and cultural trends in the American society? Well, I wanted you to know that the most authoritative and reliable source of such information is often considered the Pew Research Center. You might have heard its name. Pew Research Center is the most common source of such information for most of the planners in the country. Let's click on this link and see what they have to offer. They have a wide range of topics on which they conduct researches, both primary and secondary. So I wanted to point this out for you, topics. And here, when you go in, you will see how information is provided on almost every aspect of American culture and society. Gay marriage, homosexuality, poverty, Hispanics, religion, society, income inequality, business, internet activities, retirement, socioeconomic classes, media, magazines, teens, even texting you see here. What are the texting habits of people? So this is a very rich resource, and you might like to visit this page if you're looking for information on American culture and society. I'll put this link in the additional resources where you can find it. And lastly, marketers should actively track the demographic information on their customers. By demographic information, we mean a set of basic information that describes a market, such as population, literacy, ethnicities, number of households, education, etc. This information can be quite useful for marketers in segmenting their markets. So this picture tells you where the most of the population growth is in the US market. You can see that the blue areas are the ones which have grown the fastest population-wise over the last 10 years. And as you would imagine, that is where the opportunities are the most for the marketing guys. So marketing professionals, they want to keep track as to where the population is heading. And here is some information on the three major demographic groups that were described in the text. Baby boomers, who are about 77 million strong, already make up about half of total US consumer spending as of 2011. Remember, this is not a small figure. These guys make up about half of total US consumer spending, and hence they represent a tremendous opportunity for marketers, and they spend a lot of time understanding them. Generation X, to which I happen to belong, is another major group of customers with certain different characteristics. And lastly, the group that you guys belong to, that is Generation Y, also often referred to as the millennials. It is considered a very important and emerging consumer group, and marketers are spending significant resources in understanding them. That's interesting. According to Wall Street Journal, there are more than 400 LinkedIn users globally that list themselves as millennial experts or millennial consultants. And hold your breath. And some of them cost as much as $20,000 an hour. I'm not kidding. I'll put that article in the additional resources section. $20,000 an hour for their consulting, and companies are hiring them. Quite mind-blowing, to be honest with you. One last thing. Where would you go if you wanted to find demographic information about the US market? Where do all the marketers go looking for the demographic information? Well, the answer is it's the census. Yes, that is true. Almost all the demographic information about the US market comes from the census. And the best part is that it is free. Anybody can go and get it there. You can follow this link and see for yourself what all is available. This link, once again, will be available in the additional resources folder again. Let's go and follow this link and see what we can find out, just to give you a little bit of an idea. So here are the quick facts about. So that was all. Thank you for listening, and have a good rest of the day.